Good morning, student. Today I will start the next topic of chapter 7. It is structure of heart. In last class I taught you that there are three organs involved in the circulation of the blood, and it is blood itself and heart and blood vessels. So today we will study the structure of heart, how heart circulate the blood throughout the body. Now our heart is located, it is a muscular organ and it is located in the chest cavity, slightly towards the left side of our body, and it is covered by double layered membrane, and that membrane is called pericardium. And in between the double layer, pericardial fluid is present, and its function is to absorb the shocks which are found on the blood. Double layered membrane is called pericardium, and the special type of muscle, our heart is made up of a special type of muscle, and that muscle is called cardiac muscle. This is all about the external structure of heart. Now internal structure, our heart is divided into four chambers. Human heart is divided into four chambers, and these are the four chambers. These are the two auricles, and these are the ventricles. Two auricles and two ventricles. Two upper chambers are called auricles and two lower chamber is called ventricle. And all these chambers are separated by a septum. They are not coordinating with each other. They are separated, totally separated by each other, and that separating membrane is called septum. The blood which comes into the right auricle, from the right auricle, it comes into the right ventricle, and through an aperture, and that aperture is called right auricular ventricular wall, aperture, and the blood which comes into the left auricle, and from left auricle it comes into the left ventricle through the left auricular ventricular aperture. And these two apertures are guarded by valves, and these valves are called bicuspid and tricuspid valve. Now there are some valves are present in our heart, and these are, first is bicuspid valve, and this bicuspid valve is present in left side of our heart, that is, it is present on the left auricular ventricular aperture. This aperture is guarded by this bicuspid valve. Second is tricuspid valve. And this tricuspid valve is present in right side of our heart at the right auricular ventricular aperture. Means this aperture is guarded by tricuspid valve. Now third is semilunar valve. Good morning, student. Today I will start the next topic of chapter 7. It is structure of heart. In last class I taught you that there are three organs involved in the circulation of the blood, and it is blood itself and heart and blood vessels. So today we will study the structure of heart, how heart circulate the blood throughout the body. Now our heart is located, it is a muscular organ, and it is located in the chest cavity, slightly towards the left side of our body, and it is covered by double layered membrane, and that membrane is called pericardium. And in between the double layer, pericardial fluid is present, and its function is to absorb the shocks which are found on the blood. Double layered membrane is called pericardium, and the special type of muscle, our heart is made up of a special type of muscle, and that muscle is called cardiac muscle. This is all about the external structure of heart. Now internal structure. Our heart is divided into 4 chambers. Human heart is divided into 4 chambers, and these are the 4 chambers. These are the 2 auricles, and these are the ventricles. 2 auricles and 2 ventricles. 2 upper chambers are called auricles and 2 lower chamber is called ventricle. And all these chambers are separated by a septum. They are not coordinating with each other. They are separated, totally separated by each other, and that separating membrane is called septum. The blood which comes into the right auricle, from the right auricle, it comes into the right ventricle, and through an aperture, and that aperture is called right auricular ventricular wall, aperture, sorry. And the blood which comes into the left auricle, and from left auricle it comes into the left ventricle through the left auricular ventricular aperture. And these 2 apertures are guarded by valves, and these valves are called bicuspid and tricuspid valve. Bicuspid valve. Now there are some valves are present in our heart, and these are, first is bicuspid valve, and this bicuspid valve is present in left side of our heart, that is, it is present on the left auricular ventricular aperture. This aperture is guarded by this bicuspid valve. Second is tricuspid valve. And this tricuspid valve is present in right side of our heart at the right auricular ventricular aperture. Means this aperture is guarded by tricuspid valve. Now third is semilunar valve. This semilunar valve is present at the opening of aorta. Aorta is a longest artery. It is the largest artery, and it comes out from the left ventricle, and this aorta is guarded by semilunar valve. And the fourth valve is now the third valve is semilunar valve, and it is present in the vessels which are leaving the heart. The first is a pulmonary semilunar valve, and it is present in the pulmonary artery which is coming out from the right ventricle. And fourth one is the aortic semilunar valve, and aortic semilunar valve is present in aorta. Aorta is the largest artery which is coming out from the left ventricle, and this aorta is responsible for the distributing the blood throughout the body. Distributing, not collecting. These aorta are responsible for distributing the blood throughout the body, and these aorta is guarded by the mouth of this aorta is guarded by aortic semilunar valve. These valves are very important. Their function, their location surely comes in the examination, so you have to be very alert about this. You have to be very conscious about this valve. Now the next topic of our is structure. The valves, the vessels which are entering the heart. There are 2 vessels which are entering in the heart, and these are the inferior vena cava and superior vena cava. Inferior vena cava takes the blood from the lower parts of our body and poured it into the right auricle, whereas superior vena cava collect the blood from the upper part of our body and pour it into the right auricle. In this way, from all parts of the body, blood collects by the inferior and superior vena cava and it is poured into the right ventricle. Into the right auricle. These are the two vessels which are entering the heart. Now the vessels which leaving the heart. The first is the aorta. Aorta is the vessel which leaving the heart, which collect the blood from the left ventricle and distribute it throughout the body is the aorta. Second is the pulmonary artery. It takes the blood from the right ventricle and poured it into the lungs for oxygenation. And third is the coronary artery. Coronary artery is the artery which supplies the blood to the walls of the heart, to the muscles of the heart. This name is very important, coronary artery. This artery supplies the blood to the walls of the heart. This is all about the vessels which are leaving the heart, means which takes the blood from the heart and distribute it. These vessels are called leaving the heart. So these are the some vessels which are entering and leaving the heart. There are some also special vessels which gives the blood to special organ and collect, like liver. Hepatic artery. Hepatic artery gives the blood to the liver, and hepatic vein collects the blood from the liver. In the same way, the artery which gives the blood to the kidney is called a renal artery, and the renal veins collects the blood, deoxygenated blood from the kidney. These are the some special vessels which gives the blood to the liver or kidney, and then the veins which collects the blood from the liver and kidney. This is all about the vessels and walls of the heart. Now we will study the working of the heart. How heart works. Now working of heart. How our heart working? This is the chart. IVC and SVC is the full form of inferior vena cava and superior vena cava. Full form is also comes from this chapter, so you have to be very aware about these terms. IVC and SVC means superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. These two vessels, these two veins, these are the veins. These two veins collects the blood from all parts of the body except lungs. And the blood is deoxygenated blood, means it is impure blood, means the blood not having oxygen in it. It has carbon dioxide at that time. The carbon dioxide having blood is called deoxygenated blood or impure blood, and this type of blood collects these veins from all parts of the body except lungs and pour it into the right auricle. And the deoxygenated blood from the right auricle comes to the right ventricle through this aperture. This aperture is called auricular ventricular aperture, and this aperture is guarded by the tricuspid valve. Since it is in right side, so it is guarded by tricuspid valve. And from right ventricle, this impure blood for the oxygenation moves to the lungs and through the pulmonary artery. So pulmonary artery is the exception in artery. This artery, only this artery carries the deoxygenated blood, because in right side it is the deoxygenated blood. So it carries deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle to the lungs for the oxygenation. And this pulmonary artery is guarded by the pulmonary semilunar wall. As the blood comes into the right ventricle, the pressure exerted, and that pressure opens the valve so that the blood moves to the lungs through the pulmonary artery, and blood get oxygenation at the lungs, and then from the lungs it comes into the right auricle through the pulmonary vein. So pulmonary vein is also exceptional vein because veins always carry deoxygenated blood. But here pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood from the lungs and pour it into the left auricle. And from the left auricle, oxygenated blood comes into the left ventricle. And again it is guarded by here left auricular ventricular aperture and guarded by the bicuspid valve. As the blood comes into the auricle, the pressure exerted, it opens the valve, bicuspid valve, and then the blood comes into the left ventricle, and as the pressure becomes low in auricles, so the bicuspid valve get closed, and as the pressure exerted increases in left ventricle, it opens the aortic semilunar valve, and when it pushes the blood to when left ventricle pushes the oxygenated blood, then it opens the aortic semilunar valve, and from the aorta blood distributed throughout the body, to all parts of the body. Now there are two conditions. Diastolic condition and systolic condition. When the chambers are in working mode, working mode means when the bloods are in the chamber, that phase is called systolic phase. And when the chambers are empty, they are without the blood, that phase is called diastolic phase. Since when the blood comes, and it make very clear that in both the auricles blood comes at the same time. No alternate way the blood comes into these auricles. In both the auricles, both the auricles are equally in their working mode. When the blood comes into the auricles, that phase is called auricular systolic phase. And from the auricles, when the blood come into the ventricle, that phase is called ventricle. Now the blood in ventricles, that phase is called ventricular systolic phase. Now the auricles are empty of the blood, they are without blood. That phase of the auricle is called auricular diastolic phase. When these two ventricles pushes the blood, right ventricle pushes the blood to the lungs and left ventricle pushes the blood to whole parts of the body, then again becomes empty or without blood. That phase is called ventricular, and at that time for all the four chambers are without blood. That phase is called joint diastolic phase. Means when there is no blood in the heart, and it is for a while second. It happens for the while second when all the four chambers are empty. They are not having blood, and that phase is called joint diastolic phase. This is all about the working and circulation of blood. Now we will study the structure of vessels. Now blood vessels. There are especially two types of vessels, artery and vein. One more vessel is also there, that is called capillary. It is a microscopic vessel, and the function of a capillary is to joins the artery to the veins. Now let's study about the artery and vein. This is the structure of artery and vein. These are the both two vessels are triple layered. External, the outer layer is called external layer, the mid one is called middle layer, and in the internal layer is called endothelium. And this portion is open, and this is called lumen. In artery, from the figure it becomes very clear to you that in artery the lumen is very short, and in veins it is very wide. It is broader than artery. So The blood which flows in the artery are in great pressure as compared to the vein. The blood which flows in the vein are not in pressure, but the blood which flows in the artery are in high pressure. Artery always carry oxygenated blood, except pulmonary artery. Only pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood. And except pulmonary artery, all the arteries carries the oxygenated blood. And these artery carries blood from the heart and distribute the blood to whole parts of the body. This is the function of artery. Now veins collects the blood from whole parts of the body, and then after collecting the blood, it pours the deoxygenated blood into the right auricle or into the heart, right portion of the heart. So the blood which flows, because of the broad lumen, the blood which flows in the veins are not in pressure, they are in steady, and veins always working. As the veins always working against the gravity, they collect the blood from the lower parts of the body and then pour it into the heart. So they works against the gravity, so that valves are present in the vein. No valves are present in the artery, because in artery, artery works not against the gravity. It works inside the gravity, so that it does not have any valves in it. But veins always works against the gravity, so that they are having valves, and that valves prevents the backflow of the blood in veins. This is all about the artery and veins. Difference between artery and veins surely comes in the examination. One or two difference. There are, if the question asked to write the structural difference, so you have to write the structural difference like this. Valves are present in the veins, no valves are present in the artery, and veins having broad lumen as compared to the artery. These are the structural difference. If the functional difference asked, so your answer is that artery carries oxygenated blood, while veins carry deoxygenated blood, except pulmonary vein and except pulmonary artery. And the second functional is the veins collects the blood from whole parts of the body, and artery distribute the blood to whole parts of the body. This is all about the artery and veins. Now capillary. These are the capillary. The function of capillary is to join artery to the vein. When the artery, small arteries are called arterioles. When the arteriole supplies the blood to the cells, and after respiration process, capillary. When arterioles supplies the blood to the cells, they supplies the blood to the cells through these capillaries. And after the respiration process, these site of capillaries collects the deoxygenated blood, then it supplies it to the veins. In this way, these capillaries connects the artery to the veins. This is the capillary, and this is all about the capillary. Now, one more thing I want to explain you, that human blood circulation is double circulation. There are two types of circulation found in human beings. First is the pulmonary circulation, when the blood moves from the right ventricle to the lungs, and from the lungs to the heart. This is the pulmonary circulation. And second is the systemic circulation. Systemic circulation means when the blood flows from the left ventricle to whole parts of the body, and then veins collects the blood from the whole parts of the body and pour it into the right auricle. This is, in this way, two circulation found at the same time in our bodies. Hence, it is called double circulation. Means once the blood moves to the lungs, and secondly it moves at the same time, it moves to whole parts of the body. through the different channel, so that it is called double circulation. First is the pulmonary circulation when blood flows to the lungs, and second is the systemic circulation when the blood flows throughout the body. Now the function of the second important thing is that the function of all the valves is to prevent the backflow of the blood in that type of aperture or vessels in which where they are present. Suppose cuspid valve. The function of cuspid valve is to prevent the backflow of the blood from the ventricle to the auricle. And in the same way, the function of semilunar valve is to prevent the backflow of the blood from the aorta to the ventricle, or from the pulmonary artery to the right ventricle. Now, the next important thing is chordae tendineae. Chordae tendineae is fibers, is a thread-like fibers which are made up of papillary muscles, and these chordae tendineae are present at the walls of the ventricles. And suppose this is the wall of the ventricle, and here chordae tendineae are present. Thread-like chordae tendineae are present, and they guard or they anchor the opening and closing of cuspid valves. This is the auricles, and this opening and closing of cuspid valves are guarded by chordae tendineae. This is the function of chordae tendineae. If a question asks what is the function of chordae tendineae, then it anchors the cuspid valves, or it guards the opening and closing of cuspid valves. This is all about this chapter. Now the lymphatic system and hepatic portal system and blood transfusion is excluded from your course. So in this way I have completed this chapter. In next class we will meet with the PDF. Till then, thank you.